So in this chapter, it's revealed that it's very likely that the Blackbeard pirates have shown up to Egghead Island. Not only that, but are also in possession of Vegapunk's technology too? I don't want to get ahead of myself, but like I said, there are heavy implications, and we'll get to that a little later on, but first I have to go over what happened in this entire chapter. So at the end of the previous, we saw that Saturn of the Gorosei had called for a buster call on Egghead. I guess he kind of just got fed up with what's going on here, decided that there's too many bad variables at play, and decided to just go scorched earth on it. Coming into this chapter, we see everyone panicking and running away, namely the Marines there, because, you know, they're kind of just normal dudes. They will for sure get killed by the buster call. And we see Vice Admiral Dahl, and she's like pleading for Kizaru and Saturn to leave because, you know, in theory, I guess she thinks it would kill them as well, but they're like, nah. Saturn says Kizaru and I shall remain on the island. And it makes you wonder, like, I guess they're pretty confident they'll survive the buster call. I mean, Kizaru will. He's a Logia. And I don't think the buster call has hockey behind it, so he'll be fine. And Saturn, as we've seen, is pretty tough, but also has regeneration ability. So they're both in the kind of the same boat here as to where they can take a buster call, and it's not really going to affect them. And I guess this is just a better way to evacuate all of the lingering people on the island, because I guess it'll just eventually come down to the Straw Hat / Vegapunk and the Blackbeard pirates taking on Kizaru and Saturn, as well as the Seraphims. Let's not forget that they're a thing that's still there, but they're kind of in containment right now. But we're coming back to Saturn and Kizaru, and they're kind of just standing there in front of Vegapunk, and Vegapunk's pleading with them to stop the buster call because, you know, Egghead is the premier place of science and technology in the world, and if you destroy it, it'll essentially set you back a century. And Saturn's just further solidifying why he is doing the buster call. He's like, yeah, I don't care, you know, maybe you're still hiding something, and also we don't even need a further for advancement, you know. And it's understandable because Saturn and the Gorosei and Emu want to keep the world in a specific amount of control. Like, it's kind of like the Matrix to them. And I guess he realized that if he just keeps advancing technology, they'll eventually get back to where the ancient kingdom was over 1,000 years ago, which we found out from Vegapunk had like the most advanced technology ever. And they were, of course, wiped out by the world government. And also another thing here that I think is kind of funny is that, like, Vegapunk is just standing there in front of Saturn and Kizaru, and they're like not doing anything. They're just conversing with him. And it's like, isn't your whole thing like to kill Vegapunk? Like, you could just easily kill him right there. Why are you like wasting your time just standing there and doing nothing and talking to him? But I digress. Saturn continues to talk, and he says that he gave an order to destroy the ship that left the island yesterday, and that ship that he's referring to is from chapter 1079. We saw that the research scientists on Egghead had all evacuated to this ship and then eventually left. And we're finding out that Saturn gave the order to hunt them down and destroy them. And we see like this vision of the ship being destroyed from Saturn's perspective, but spoiler alert, they're actually not destroyed or killed at all. They were actually seemingly able to make it away, kind of, but with a caveat, and we'll get into that. But he thinks that they would have information about the Void Sentry, which is understandable because Vegapunk seems to know a lot about it, although he won't tell the audience. But we're cutting away from that, and we're seeing what Sanji and Frankie are doing with Atlas, and they now have the unconscious Kuma, or kind of unconscious. They're trying to take him up to the Labo phase because, I don't know, Vegapunk can do something for Kuma maybe. It's not really revealed yet. Kuma's status is very unknown at this point. It doesn't seem like he'll be able to get his full consciousness and personality back, but maybe he'll be able to exist as this android that has some kind of pseudo consciousness. And also it could play into what the Buccaneers' ability is, other than like being strong and big. They might have some kind of soul imprinting ability or something, like they can place their will into something inanimate, maybe. I don't know. It's also could be what's going on with the ancient robot, like maybe a Buccaneer back in the day imprinted himself on it. But Sanji is aiding them through these vacuum tubes to get to the top of the lab. And we're also cutting away from that, and we're seeing what the other Straw Hats are doing, like Nami, Robin, Usopp, Chopper, and they're just doing nothing. I mean, they're literally doing nothing. And it just makes you wonder, like, why is Oda just regulating the Straw Hats to essentially doing nothing. But Nami mentions that Zoro is still fighting Lucci and that they send Jinbei to get him so he doesn't get lost. And it's like, okay, so that confirms that Zoro is still fighting Lucci, but it's still off screen. And we don't know what's going on with that fight. And I wonder if Oda is even going to show us it, or it's just going to be completely off screen. And I guess it will end with Zoro maybe defeating Lucci possibly, or it'll just be like a stalemate once Jinbei shows up and Lucci kind of runs away because of the Buster Call or whatever. But then we're coming back to Brook, who is with Lilith, and they're transporting the Sunny through the clouds on Egghead. They're able to do this because Brook can freeze the clouds. The Buster Call finally begins, and the first volley is fired. And we also see that the pacifistas are also firing off their lasers, destroying it as well. And Vegapunk just watching it, still not getting attacked by Saturn or Kizaru. And we see Atlas is inside of this hyper capsule going up the vacuum tube to get to the lab phase with Frankie, Kuma, and Bonnie. But Kizaru just instantly gets there, pulls out his sword, and cuts right through the vacuum tube and the hyper capsule. And then Frankie, Kuma, Atlas, and Bonnie are all falling out from the vacuum tube, like high up in the sky, down onto Egghead. And Saturn gives the pacifistas the orders to like snipe them out of the sky essentially with their laser, which is, as he says, ironic considering that the pacifistas are going to kill Kuma, which they were based off of. But Sanji is on his way to help them, so I'm sure he's going to be able to save them in some way because he can kind of fly, you know, using airwalk. But then we come to the very end of the chapter and we see that Luffy is eating food from the food machine, and he's so stuffed that he can't even move. He needed the food to recover from using Gear 5 against Kizaru. So I guess we'll come back to him in the next chapter, or maybe the one after that. But in the final panel of the chapter, we see a Marine saying that we failed to neutralize that escaping vessel. We have to report this to Kizaru-san. He has to know that they're heading for Egghead. So like I said in the beginning, the ship that had like all of the scientists from Egghead on it was not actually destroyed as Saturn thought. They were able to make it away because the Marine battleship that was going to take them out was actually destroyed instead. And them saying like he has to know that they're heading for Egghead, that means, in my opinion, the Blackbeard pirates. Because also back in chapter 1079, when we saw the scientists escaping, the panel after that was a Blackbeard pirate ship heading to Egghead. So we can just assume that it had to be them who destroyed the Marine ships that were going to attack them. And I guess Blackbeard pirates now have the scientists from Egghead, because why wouldn't they take them? And I guess this means that they're now going to be in possession of Vegapunk technology, or the ability to replicate it, as well as whatever kind of information that Vegapunk had. So this is just a way to make the Blackbeard pirates even stronger and more efficient at finding the One Piece, I suppose, or Laugh Tale. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Let me know what you think about this chapter in the comments, and if you liked it, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.